LEGO has made a ton of video games, a 40-year history from archaic education games to today's very fancy LEGO Batman Legacy of the Dark Knight. Of course, there's a handful of LEGO games pretty much everyone knows about: LEGO Island, LEGO Star Wars, LEGO Fortnite. But for every game like that, there's a dozen or so that no one talks about, like LEGO Loco, where you design railway systems, or Drome Racers, set in the futuristic year of, 2015, or Legoland, which is just straight up a ripoff of Roller Coaster Tycoon and a source of wonderful phrases like
a properly zoned Wild West area.
A lot of these games come and go. That's kind of the nature of video games. They're pretty disposable. Like this YouTuber says,
this future of gaming, really things just, the way developers are designing games, the way they're developing things, putting them out there, these games are meant to be disposable. They're not meant to be played forever. You know, human civilization is not going to exist anymore. Video games aren't going to mean a damn thing.
That's actually pretty tonally consistent with today's episode. And look, it sucks if there's a game you love that just disappears out of the blue. But there are some in the gaming world who say no. Just because a game isn't sold anymore, just because the developer shut down the servers, just because most people have moved on, that doesn't mean we have to throw in the towel. There's a whole coalition called Stop Killing Games that's founded on that principle.
You know, you pay money for the game, they've designed it so that they host it, and then when they shut it down, you're left with nothing. See, a lot of people, I think especially younger gamers, just see that as normal. And whereas I'm old enough to know that, no, it wasn't always like this.
And today's guests share that exact sentiment. For years, they have kept the lights running on a decade-and-a-half-old LEGO game just on the off chance a new player wants to have the experience they had back in 2010. My name's Eric Crittenden, and this is Clutch Power, a show about the ways we love LEGO. Episode 19, The Heat Death of the LEGO Universe. In part 1, an interview with HailStorm and Aaron WK, two big LEGO Universe fans, about what made that original game so special for the short time it was online. And part 2, the resurrection of the LEGO Universe, and how, like city-states turning into a nation, LEGO Universe fans banded together to create something really special. The member bonus is a little different for this episode. My buddy Joe and I are going to play through the opening hours of LEGO Universe just to see what all the fuss is about. It's a standalone video up right now. And look, before we begin, you're going to hear a bunch of technical terms throughout this episode like server, client, packets, MMO. I will do my best to pop in and define some of this stuff so you're not totally lost. Also, let me just say here, I have no history or bias towards LEGO Universe. I never played it as a kid. It just didn't appeal to me. I don't know. But seeing these guys and their passion for this game is really inspiring, and it led me to actually check out LEGO Universe, so I hope you do the same. Part 1, MMO Overload. In 2004, two big games launched, Sony's EverQuest 2 and Blizzard's World of Warcraft. Both games were MMOs, massively multiplayer online games. The G is silent, I guess. These games work like this. You have your player character in a big world with other players completing quests, interacting with players or NPCs decorating houses. There's a lot of little differences between MMOs, but those are usually in there. Once EverQuest and WoW, World of Warcraft, took off, a bunch of developers followed suit, making their own MMOs like Wizard 101, Poptropica, Lord of the Rings Online, Pirates of the Caribbean Online. From like 2005 to 2013, a dozen MMOs would come out each year. And right in the middle there was LEGO Universe. LEGO had been looking towards like video games and electronics since the 90s.
A world where electronics and technology is gaining and we have a classic product. It's the interesting part there is how do we connect the physical with the new virtual digital era of time.
That's Mark Hansen, then LEGO's lead of product development. He gave this presentation.
This place, this game world, is going to be a rallying point for LEGO enthusiasts of every age and every nationality. the world itself, the bricks that you use, the buildings that you make, the people that you interact with, the friends that you can get. I mean, it's endless.
Everything's possible.
LEGO Universe as an idea was kind of bouncing around LEGO for a while, but in 2006, LEGO officially handed the reins over to a developer called NetDevil, who had a pretty big vision for the game.
You can get in there, you can create your own minifigure, you adventure with that character, you get to play through this whole big epic backstory that we've got going on.
You go on missions with other players, you trade with other players, and you collect stuff.
And they were not deterred even when reporters asked them questions like this.
People are starting to think that maybe WoW is like going to destroy anything that kind of comes out into this genre now. I mean, what do you think?
No, I don't worry about that at all.
LEGO announced the game in 2007 to be launched in 2008. That launch date got pushed to 2009, and then it got pushed again to 2010. But in those 3 years, I personally remember seeing LEGO Universe everywhere. LEGO magazines, instruction manuals, TV commercials.
Together, you fight against evil to save the universe.
They even did this alternate reality game where they hid LEGO pods in real life around the world for fans to find. It was, a big marketing push. And on October 27th, 2010, the public could finally buy that LEGO Universe DVD, pop it in their computer, and get to playing. And that is where today's guests come in. So, what is your personal history with LEGO Universe?
Oh, it goes way back. So, I started back when they did closed beta, so I was in that.
This is HailStorm, one of our guests.
Did the pre-order for the game, did the full game when it was live.
So, you were there from the beginning, before the beginning, really?
Yeah.
Aaron, my second guest, has a similar experience.
I got into the closed alpha beta from the Bradford Rand Institute of Cosmic Kinesis website, which if you look and see what that spells brick.
What was your initial impression?
Oh, I loved it. It was great. Something that a lot of people talk about is its physics. When you move, your movement physics, it's just so bouncy and playful that it's just very fun to jump around and do things in.
What was sort of the gameplay loop of LEGO Universe?
So the main mission story was regarding the evil Maelstrom had taken over the universe, and your mission as a minifig was to save imagination. And so the story premise basically is going around and you're gaining imagination as a minifig and then going around and defeating the Maelstrom.
Weren't there different types of classes? I'm not sure if that's the right word.
You have assembly, which is kind of building and building focused. You have Sentinel, which is more so AoE damage focusing, and kind of the defenders. So they have very tanky. And you have Venture, which is mainly buff focused. And then Paradox, which is kind of an all-arounder. They're more so kind of teetering on the edge of what can we do with the Maelstrom to our advantage.
I know there was a lot of gaming terms there. Think tanky as in big and take a lot of hits. Think buffs as in kind of giving your fellow adventurers a power-up. How does the building aspect kind of fit into all this, into the gameplay loop?
So building the universe was restricted mostly to, or pretty much only to, properties that you could claim. Each world had one or two themed properties to that world. You could go and fight some enemies and then claim it as your own property. Then you could go and either place pre-built brick models that you could collect throughout your playtime, or you could go in and basically build brick by brick, similar to kind of like a Lego Digital Designer, and build your own creations. And then on top of that, they had something called behaviors, which you could allow you to essentially program your creations with drag and drop kind of model. So you could have it you go up to it and chat something and enemies could spawn, or it could smash itself, or it was pretty cool what people could create with all of that.
Was there, I know a lot of MMOs at the time, there was a level cap, this is the maximum level you could get to. Was there one in LEGO Universe?
Not initially. So initially there was no level cap. There was no levels at all. It was just basically you get gear, you could equip it. And then later on in life, they introduced levels, and that capped at level 45.
How hard was it to get from level 1 to 45? Or what did it take a long time?
I think you probably could get to level 45 if you played consistently for maybe a month or so.
That feels short for an MMO.
It's really short, and that's something that I've experienced just through the recreation effort is just how short the game experience is for Lego Universe. Now, as a child, that might have felt really long. Playing through it now as an adult, you can really tell that there is a lot of content lacking, and you could, if you sat down and played it, you could get it done fairly quick.
When you say content lacking, what do you mean?
They got their main storyline, but there isn't much after that. Like, you can complete the main quest line fairly quickly, and after that, you're basically just grinding up levels after that. And so it becomes a really more of a grind and less story involved.
What differed from Lego Universe compared to these other MMOs of the time?
There wasn't really much set apart other than it was Lego. It had a cool story. It was priced similarly and competitively to MMO, and it was also kind of in the decline of the MMO age as well, with subscription pricing and whatnot too, which was to its detriment.
Can you kind of walk me through the pricing model? Like, how much did it actually cost?
So originally, before they went free to play, the game disc was $60, but you could find it on discount.
Back when there were PC CDs?
Yeah, it was about $10 a month.
Wow. It's not bad.
I think it was, if you did a year in advance, it was like $100. So you saved $20.
I feel like that is cheaper than like World of Warcraft.
I think it was, but still, the main demographic is kids, and kids have to convince parents to do that. Whereas World of Warcraft's demographic is mostly adults, and so adults will spend their own money on something they will do.
Its target audience was very child friendly, and Lego had a lot of effort and the lengths they went to moderate the game to be an environment for children, to be a safe environment for children. And I think that's where they kind of stood apart from a lot of other games. And the lengths they went through for the moderation, I think they were kind of ahead of their time in terms of what they tried to do for that.
So for people who don't know, what is moderation when it comes to games?
They had moderation in terms of game chat. So all the game chat was kind of whitelisted in a sense. So you'd only were able to say specific words. Every name, so your character name, you could tame pets in the game. Every pet name that had to go through a moderation. So a human reviewed every single name and approved it. Then you could property with Lego bricks and models, and those were also human moderated. So a human would go in, view the model on the property, make sure it was all safe and good, and then approve the property. So there's a lot of moderation. Then there was friends, which was basically their moderators in game that would view and interact with the players as well. So that moderation stands. So a lot of manpower went into it.
Yeah, you said they were ahead of their time.
The links they went for moderation, I think, was different from what games existed at that time, and it just like the amount of human effort involved in moderating too.
And so when you say moderation cost, that literally is paying people
to go through and look at all of this.
So really, the more players Lego Universe had, the more moderators they would need.
Yes.
And you said that was kind of their downfall?
I think it was a mix of things, but I think just the cost involved of hiring all those people to moderate the game just was not feasible. I think if they're to do something again now, I think all the tools that are available now with like AI and stuff, I think could simplify a lot of that moderation now.
Yeah. Are there other speculative reasons it closed?
This will be grain of salt to my head. So
sure.
That I have from conversations I've had. There were some financial issues within the Lego company, I believe, around that era. Not nearly as bad as the like early 2000s. We risked the company was okay. We either continue this game or we don't, or we do this creator line of sets. So it was very much they had to choose making sets or continue the game financially to do that. And I think in that same interview, whoever it was that said that also stated that shutting down Lego Universe was one of the biggest mistakes they did.
Why was it a mistake?
Because they haven't been able to replicate it.
So when did Lego Universe start to kind of shut down?
Around October, November of 2011.
Okay, so we're talking like a 2-year lifespan, roughly?
Yes, that was very, very short for how long it was in development.
Yeah. Did Lego ever release like player numbers?
Not that I'm aware. there have been developers, I know people talk about player numbers over the years, and that kind of goes back to when they launched the free-to-play model. They got a lot of traction, and they got a lot of player numbers. The issue was the conversion to a paying customer. That conversion rate wasn't what they needed it to be.
So we're looking at when it launched in 2010, it was still paid, right?
Yes, completely paid.
So they switched
you
to
have to buy the CD, pay the subscription.
They switched to free to play within that year span.
Yes.
So I guess it really didn't work to charge $60.
Yeah, it really didn't. And at that point, at some point towards the middle of like 2011, they were sending out game discs for free.
Yeah, so it sounds like they really did not have the support, the player level of support they needed.
I think it was, in my personal opinion, it was kind of poorly timed. They had a great model. They had a great game. They just didn't hit it in the right time. I think if it was a couple years later, it would have worked and LEGO Universe would still be around.
Do you remember, were you still playing at the time when it was closing?
So unfortunately, I did not get to experience closing night, but from what I've heard in the videos I've seen, it was definitely a special event.
I remember staying up most of January and leaving my computer running LEGO Universe to get items, because you have to be logged in to get items they would mail out. So they would mail out unreleased items, or stuff that got canceled, stuff that they hadn't finished and whatnot. And then they'd spawn things, like spawn buildings and whatnot. It was fun. In fact, I remember one of the biggest ones, they like announced they were doing it. They announced a date and a time they were going to be in this world, and people formed a line and requested stuff. And so it was like, who cares? The game, like you said, who cares? The game's shutting down.
What is your sort of favorite memory of LEGO Universe?
I would say just playing with my cousin over the phone and just playing with him, and probably teaming up and going over to Crux Prime and defeating the dragons there. That was a lot of fun.
What is that, like the final boss? What is that for context?
I guess you could consider it a final boss. Crux Prime was where the harder enemies were, essentially, and they had these dragons that you could fight, with one in particular being Butterscotch, which was like the hardest dragon to fight. Leaders didn't really have a final boss per se, but yeah, you could consider that as a final boss equivalent.
And you think that'd be the end of LEGO Universe, right? Buried in the graveyards of the other MMOs of the time. But not so, because right now, you can go play LEGO Universe with full server support, moderation, the works, just like it was in 2010. So how did that happen? That's up next. Part 2. It ain't over till it's over. So, LEGO Universe shut down in 2012, and soon after, the MMO craze kind of fizzled out. If you look at the Wikipedia page for MMOs, the flow really stops around like 2015. That's for a number of reasons, as YouTuber Force Gaming points out.
Wages are higher, so it's more expensive to make the games, and the games take 5 to 7 years to make, at minimum usually, and so you're paying 5 to 7 years of salaries. That's a lot of times somewhere in the ballpark of 30 to 50 plus million a year, just in salaries alone, and then by the end of the 5 years, you're looking at a couple $100 million, plus all other costs that you have. And then the MMO comes out, and it gets presented to the MMO community. Not exactly. We're a wily bunch. You know, it's not, man. Then we finish the game in a week that took you 7 years to make, and we shit all over it for maybe the lacking aspects of it because it doesn't have as much content as MMOs that have been getting updates for 20 years. And then your studio shuts down in 2 years.
Even World of Warcraft, which is still running, by the way, has only about half the subscribers it did in its peak in the early 2010s. The appetite for games like LEGO Universe just, it's not really there anymore. People have moved on to games like Overwatch or Destiny or Counter-Strike. But if you go to any MMO subreddit, if they have a subreddit, you're going to find a handful of really dedicated people who swear up and down that that specific MMO is the best game ever. And it was that feeling that drove the fans behind Nexus Universe. It's a fan recreation of the LEGO Universe servers, so you can play with other people just like in 2010. But talking to HailStorm and Aaron, it was a long road to get there. So when it shut down late 2011, early 2012, what sort of happened to LEGO Universe?
There were already efforts before the shutdown was even announced to make self-hosted servers, from what I understand. Yes, very small, very private efforts.
People were they had captured packets from the game and were starting to reconstruct or deconstruct the packets and started to recreate that effort.
You mentioned a packet. What is a packet and how do you capture it?
There are things called packets, which get sent between the client and the game server. And each packet contains information, whether that be like your player's position, what's happening on around you. And so if you can decode that, if you have enough of them, you can kind of reconstruct what the server was telling the client and be able to reconstruct a server from that.
A client is like the specific version of LEGO Universe you have on your computer. Clients send information to servers. Like if none of these projects existed, I could still play LEGO Universe.
No, it requires a server to play. A lot of the logic is server driven in the game.
But you're not recreating the game itself.
No, we're just recreating the server to drive the client.
Gotcha. Okay. You're giving something for people to connect to.
Yes.
How do you even what does that even mean? Reconstruct a server?
You do something in a game, like you kill an enemy. Usually that tells the game server, hey, I killed an enemy, update my information on the server. So everything in the game is saved server side. So all of your characters' information, your inventory, your progress is all stored server side. So if you do something in the game, that needs to be communicated with the server. You need the server to basically tell the client what to display on your screen and basically keep track of everything that's going on.
In the early days, a lot of the simple servers were just packet replays. And so you could essentially watch what happened as a bystander. Because, yeah, you saw the data there, and so you just send it. And the client's like, cool, I know what to do.
So you couldn't actually do anything.
You couldn't do anything. Those were like the first server projects were just packet replay servers. There were a lot of projects to remake a whole game. I was a part of one of those at the time.
Yeah, when did you kind of get involved with all this?
I was on and off, mainly off.
Yeah.
2021, I joined DLU. I didn't do anything on the server.
So is that Dark Flame?
Yes, Dark Flame, yes.
So what is Dark Flame Universe? Because that gets brought up a lot as I was researching.
Yeah, Dark Flame Universe or Dark Flame Server. Dark Flame Universe is kind of the organization that doesn't really exist anymore. But they made the most complete, I won't say best, but most complete version of a LEGO Universe server emulator.
They had plans to create a public server, and they were in talks with LEGO, and LEGO basically told them not to create a public server.
LEGO was worried about the redistribution of their intellectual property because it's like the client still has all the LEGO branding. It is their minifigure, their bricks, their IP. So that's what they had issues with.
And so instead what Dark Flame did is they released the source code for the server to allow basically the community to spin up their own private servers.
How did Dark Flame go in open source kind of circumvent that?
So it wasn't a single entity responsible for distributing the client. The clients, there's multiple versions of the client on archive.org that people can go look up. So that there's no one to really be legally responsible for it anymore. And that's the important part, that DLU is not distributing assets when LEGO had asked them not to specifically.
So they released the source code, and then a bunch of kind of small projects sprung up, right?
Yeah, so there's quite a few small projects spun up. There are a few public ones. From my understanding, those weren't very well kept, and so they kind of fell into disrepair. But there were quite a few small, quote unquote, public or private servers, which are basically invite only servers essentially. So they were public in the sense that anyone could join them, but you had to be invited to join them. So I started one back then, right when the server, or around when the server source was released, called Lego Universe PNW. And at the time, that was, from my understanding, the largest private server at the time. And I had that open for around a year. And during that time, I discovered another server called Brian's Lego Universe. And I got to talking with the creator, Brian, and we ended up merging my server into his server. And that was around December of 2022.
In 2021, when the source code got released, what were you doing? Like, why did you decide to resurrect this 10-year-old game?
So following Dark Flame as a project, just kind of following around, and I had been anticipating, obviously, the public release of a server, but that didn't happen. And so when they had released the source code, it kind of was like, well, hey, I have some experience in this kind of field, so like, I think it'd be cool just to start a server that other people could play on. And I really wanted to experience that experience again of playing with other people. And at the time, there weren't any other servers that I could find at the time to basically have that experience. And so I figured I might as well create that experience myself and create a server for that.
Yeah. So once Lego Universe PNW, which I assume is Pacific Northwest, once that was rolling and people were popping in the server, what did you feel?
It was great. I basically essentially re-experienced the server, or re-experienced the game for the first time again. And it was just basically be able to play with other people was really great. And the community that formed around that was really cool.
So how do we get to Nexus Universe?
So a year or two ago, when a server popped up, I'll just call it the scam server for the sense of this, but basically they popped up basically impersonating Lego and gaming the search engine optimization to be on the front page of Google when you search Lego Universe. And their server was charging players for in-game items with real money. They were changing the level up system so that basically would force people to pay them money to level up, essentially. So it was a very gamified and kind of a scummy way to run things, adding to the fact that they were trying to impersonate Lego. And they also didn't mention anyone on their site. And if you tried to bring it up on their Discord, they would ban you for mentioning that they were using the Dark Flame source. And so they were trying to make it sound like they were the ones that created the server source code and they were the ones that did everything. Up until that point, no one had really created a public server out of fear of being shut down by Lego. And there was a lot of people that were essentially going to that scam server and getting scammed out of money. And so we, as a community, were like, hey, what can we do to combat that experience? And so we was basically decided that we were going to risk it essentially and create a public server to basically outcompete the scam server and basically provide another beacon essentially that players could go to and play Lego Universe without having to go through that experience.
Which is interesting because only a couple years earlier they shut down Dark Flame.
Yeah, it definitely is very interesting and has perplexed a lot of us in the community as to why Lego hasn't taken action. There has been speculation that potentially the scam server is abroad, overseas, in an area that is hard to take legal action against. But again, there are avenues that Lego could take, like taking away their domain, things like that they just haven't done. And what makes it even more interesting is when because I was the one that volunteered, or basically kind of going back, the community wanted someone to host Lego Universe, and so I had volunteered to host Nexus Universe. And so when I created Nexus Universe, I had originally created up and spun up a domain name to kind of promote the Lego Universe or the Nexus Universe site. And my initial attempt, Lego seized my domain. And I thought that was interesting because like they had never done that to the scam server at all. And so that was up for, I'd say, a month or two. And then I got a cease and desist from a third party acting on behalf of Lego to give them their domain. Otherwise, they would press charges or whatever.
Nexus Universe is a public server. It is probably the best way to play now. And so it's a slightly modified game client and server from DLU source, mainly in the game content, because a lot of the server is data driven. The game essentially has a database that defines everything. The server just takes that database and does what it tells it to do. It's moderated nicely. I know all the people that run it. I myself am not personally involved in it, but it is a safe way to play.
How many players are there usually?
That is the issue. Because the game loop of Lego Universe isn't that long.
Yeah.
You can go through the main game in probably about 6 hours, maybe less. On average, they have at most 8 players daily. So it's not that many.
And are those kind of the same players over and over?
Yes, there are a select few very dedicated players, but also there's people constantly coming in and finding Nexus Universe, and they'll play it and then they'll get bored because they've done everything, and then they'll stop playing and more players come in. So it's just a revolving door of people coming in, doing everything, and then leaving.
So are you one of the players, the dedicated players?
So I really don't play the game.
Yeah. So what do you do?
I do development work a lot, and I have the game open. 9% of the game open, I will just be doing development work or testing something I just implemented. And I barely play on the server I help run.
Yeah. Is Nexus Universe the largest server?
Yes.
Yeah.
BLU recently just merged into Nexus Universe, just because BLU wasn't invite only. It wasn't private. It was just invite only, and you can get invite easy. But with Nexus Universe being a fully public server, it would just make sense to merge the largest invite-only server into the largest public server and have that consolidated player base to try to have players be more interactive with each other.
Well, yeah, it seems like a really tight-knit community. It's cool.
It is. The few of us, probably the 15 to 20 of us that have done development, either through game content or server content, it's really just me and one other person doing server development now. And also the server's mostly complete too. There's very little left to do.
Yeah. And in terms of moderation, is it kind of like...
Moderation for Nexus Universe is really good.
Well, I guess when there's only 8 players online.
Yes, there are thousands of accounts in those and characters, though. But when there's only a slow trickle, you can kind of handle it. With the rise of AI, I know that Hell has basically all the text moderation, the names. It's all automated. And when it flags something, and when it thinks something could be bad, it sends it up to them to check it. Like, hey, is this actually some innuendo or something that we need to like block? But as for like property and stuff, yeah, you just go look at the property and does it look inappropriate, or are there inappropriate things on it? Part of it is because I'm a web dev. There's a companion web app to Dark Flame called Nexus Dashboard that I wrote a property render so you can view the whole property in the web browser.
So goal essentially is to create an experience that someone who's had no technical experience, no anything could join and play the game with very little hiccup or any hard experience.
So my last question is, this game shut down, 15 years ago now, and the player base is relatively small. Why are you doing all this?
I enjoy it. I enjoy providing an experience that allows people to re-experience League Universe. I know how awesome it was to re-experience League Universe back in the day when I created that first server after the shutdown, and I want other people to have that same experience. And I've also seen the community that gets formed through that as well. I think Brian's Lego Universe was a great example of a very close-knit community that was formed through Lego Universe. And so just being able to provide that experience for other people is really cool.
I'm not sure if you're going to have my video or not. As I think you can see that I like Lego. It was what got me into programming. It's and that's been my career path. I'm a software engineer. I do this on a daily basis. Like I do coding on a daily basis, but it got me into that. It got me into wanting to do like this reverse engineering, this coding to try to work on these projects, to learn more, so I could do this stuff that I can do today, and have done over the past couple of years. Like in 2012, I knew nothing about coding, and so it set me down that path. And I don't know, paying my penance. I just enjoy it. I enjoy the community. I enjoy the friends I make, because I've had friends for the past decade, since Lego Universe closed, that I have known through Skype, through Discord. You'll see on that timeline there's Skype stuff, is because all the Lego Universe groups during the live game were on Skype. So that's why it's so pivotal. And so we've kept up with each other. In fact, my main friend group that I talk to basically every day, even when I dropped off the face of the internet earth for college and stuff, I met through Lego Universe. So it's just such a pivotal piece of my life that I enjoy. I enjoy that it's still kicking. We can still improve it. We can still let other people enjoy it.
Yeah, and I imagine the ones who stick around are the real sickos for Lego Universe.
Yes, some people that have 100%ed the game, which is an insane task, and many hours goes into that. So, yeah, definitely.
Thanks to HailStorm and Aaron for talking with me for this episode. They're both a part of Nexus Universe, which, if you have any interest in playing Lego Universe, head to nexusuniverse.online. It'll walk you through how to set it up. It's very simple. I played the first hours of Lego Universe with my buddy Joe. Clutch Power supporters, you can see the video up right now on Patreon. My honest opinion is it's a very of its time MMO. I didn't love it, just first impression. But, you know, your mileage may vary. I want to give a special thank you to my supporters. It's so great to have support for this show, and you all really inspire me to just keep pushing this show further and further afield beyond just covering old Lego themes to like philosophy or really niche topics. It's been a lot of fun. If you want to become a supporter, the link's in the show notes. You're going to get bonus content for every episode, along with a special digital Lego mock. For this one, I did some intense Lego math to make the Nexus Force symbol. It's like this 5-pointed star, which way harder to build in Lego than I expected, but the result is, honestly, I'm really proud. Also, share the show around. Following the podcast everywhere is a huge help. It's the same handle everywhere, clutchpower.pod. Word of mouth is also huge for a show like this. And finally, thank you for listening to this episode. My name's Eric Crittenden. This has been Clutch Power. Stay connected.